Grace and peace to you. My name is Charlene Jin Lee. I am a practical theologian. I teach spiritual leadership and pastoral identity formation at the Graduate School of Theology at the University of Redlands. My teaching vocation is born out of my own profession of faith that believes that God calls all of us who follow Jesus Christ to live generously and graciously towards others the way God lives towards us. It's been my joy to think and reflect on the theology and the practice of hope as we seek to follow Christ in our daily lives. There were people walking in darkness for years and years, from generation to generation, holding on to the message of hope that one day God will come to rescue and save them from their wandering, from their searching. And their long-awaited hope, those years when they persisted, when they lamented, those years when they turned away, those years when they returned to God, culminated in what is just transcribed in the Gospel according to John. When God came as Word to dwell among the people, the hundreds of years of waiting on the prophecies of the coming Messiah culminate in this moment that changes the story for all creation. It changes the story about humans and God. It sings a new story about how the ordinary and the sacred live together. You know, God could have remained in some distant celestial glory, just speaking a word of hope, a word of salvation. But instead, God came to dwell deep in the crevices and in the deep places, messy places of human life. And this is the story of salvation that we hear in the prologue of John, when God comes to be and to speak. And God is saying this: you are not alone. So in this first aspect of practicing hope and cultivating hope in our lives, my invitation is for us to hear again what God is speaking to creation, to you and me this day. And the message that God speaks is you are not alone. You know, as somebody who teaches spirituality as a professional and who also happens to be a parent to 3 children, people often ask me what kind of Christian education and spiritual formation my children receive at home. And I've pondered about this, I reflected on this quite a bit, and I realized essentially the Christian education that I want to impart in my children is captured just in this statement: God is with you always. And so since they were babies, I would just recite to them, God is with you always. At drop-offs to school, I would say, God is with you always. And when they were old enough to speak, I would say, God is with you, and they would say, always. Sometimes smiling and sometimes with rolling eyes. And what I realize is at the end of the day, in all these years, when they are old enough to experience hope that collapses, when their lives collide with hardship and loneliness and struggle that is inevitable in all of our lives, if they can remember and recollect and recall this simple statement and the truth hidden in it, God is with you always, and that will be enough. For indeed, the one word that God gives to us in Jesus Christ, who came as God to dwell among and in the midst of us, is this: and remember, I am with you always to the end of the age. So as we think about these contours of hope in God's faithfulness, let us hear together Jesus saying, I am with you always. Let us hear hope.